Hello, everyone. It is Sandra Florent, your resident Haitian, and we are doing Ask a Haitian with Miss Think Like a Boss. Oh, sorry. Yes, act like a lady, think like a boss herself, Alexandra. And Alex, now, do you go by Alexandra or Alex? Which one do you prefer?
When you first meet me, you have to call me Alexandra. And then, I let people call me Alex after that.
Okay. Awesome. Because I am Sandra. I prefer Sandra. I know some people do Sandra. I know a few Alexandras, and I think they're the same way. Like, after you get to know them, you can call them Alex, but they prefer Alexandra all the way through. Right. So I am excited to have you here. As you know, May is Haitian Heritage Month, and the goal is to speak to Haitian women, men, businesses throughout the diaspora. I love the opportunity to talk to Haitian people, especially during May, but even throughout the year. So can you tell us a little bit about your background? Are you originally from New Jersey?
I am not originally from New Jersey. My family migrated from Hispaniola to Bronx, New York. So, we are definitely, I always say I'm New York born, Jersey raised. So Bronx kind of started my story, and then I moved to New Jersey with my mom afterwards, my mom and my sister.
Okay. And how was it growing up Haitian in New Jersey? I know for a lot of us Haitians, there was like Haitian Beatdown Day, and I guess it depends on where you were in your schooling. Haitians got cooler eventually.
Eventually, yes.
But in the beginning, there was still Haitian Beatdown Day. If you weren't Haitian, you were still considered an African booty scratcher. Were you wearing the pepe and you go to school and people are like, oh my God, what are those? So how was it growing up Haitian in New Jersey?
Wow. Haitian Beatdown Day. I'm sorry, that took me back a little bit. I'm like, I've never heard of Haitian Beatdown Day, and they would have had to hear it today. I would have had to bring out the strength of their ancestors if they thought they was gonna come and beat me. But growing up Haitian in New York and even New Jersey, I do remember the disrespect, right? I do remember some of the disrespect when it had to do with just being of a different culture. So it wasn't just Haitians, it was also Africans, it was also anybody who just spoke a different language. They were kind of singled out, I guess. But as far as Haitians go, in the Bronx, we were all minorities. Mm-hmm. So it didn't really, I didn't really feel the impact of it. And then moving to Jersey, when I mean moving to Jersey, we're talking about Newark, Irvington, right? There was a lot of Haitians out there.
Got it. So you had community.
Yeah, it wasn't really like singled out. I wasn't the only Haitian girl in my classroom. I didn't have a last name also that was hard to pronounce. Mm-hmm. Maybe that was part of it. You really got me thinking back. I'm like, dang. And then after leaving that Newark, Irvington area, we moved to Roselle, New Jersey, which again had Haitians there. So what I do remember, if the Haitians were fresh, like if they
off the boat.
Yeah, if they was fresh, I didn't want to say off the boat. She said it. So if they was fresh off the boat, they might have got more of the brunt of the jokes. And I remember as being in middle school and seeing those Haitians get the brunt, I would have to like stop after a point. Like I'll be like, that's enough. Like I did the most, because as a kid, you're trying to just kind of just fit in. But when I saw that the jokes were going out of hand, I'm like, and then we stopped. One thing that I did notice as well, again, just realizing it, I kind of slid through the radar. This is what I mean. I didn't know you were Haitian.
Okay, so no offense, but you are one of those.
And then I'm just like, after a while, I'm like, what does a Haitian look like? I need you to explain that to me. So when you keep saying to me, because I had to tell people I was Haitian, because I would be like, I need you to stop talking to so-and-so like that because I'm also Haitian, and I don't like that. So if you think I'm one of the cool kids, you're actually disrespecting me like right now by talking to them like that.
For sure. I think that happened like I've done the Ask A Haitian over the last couple of years, and that has kind of been the thing. It was either you slipped under the radar, no one really knew you were Haitian depending on where you live, or you were very pro-Haitian, and that kind of put a target on your back. I would say, like you, I grew up in Irvington, you know, Jersey girl, born and raised. So I have lived in an area where everyone knows you're Haitian, but it still kind of puts a target on your back if you are fresh out the boat. And then you might be the person that's trying to pick up, you know, like, hey, okay, that's enough jokes. Got it. Like, cut it out. But I think if you do go under the radar and people don't know you're Haitian, it's kind of like being the only Black person in a white environment. Like, oh no, but Sandra, you're good. You're not like all the other Haitians. You're not like all the other Black people. And it's like, that's not a badge of confidence. And for some people, depending on your personality, you do take it like, well, I'm not like those other Haitians, so I'm going to stick with this group of people and not my own people. Now, as you grew up, we know Haitians, our favorite, l'école, lakay, l'église, you know, church, school, home. You not doing anything. Look, you thinking you about to be out here in the streets, or you about to hang out with your friends. No,
Right.
Girl. You're coming home. So you are this entrepreneur. You are a hostess. Now, were your parents the more traditional Haitian of the l'école, lakay, l'église? Like you just had to do these very specific things? Or were they more Americanized or more lenient? Because sometimes I don't like to say more Americanized. There are some Haitians, even in Haiti, that they're just more lenient or just more like understanding when it comes to their children. Like, oh, you don't have to just be these 5 professions. I allow you to do that. So how were your parents? Were they okay with when you decided to do the things that you wanted to do, or were they more that strict, stereotypical Haitian parent? Like, no, you have to do these things.
So my dad is cooler than the other side of the pillow, right? My dad don't give a damn about nothing. I love my dad.
Love a cool Haitian dad, don't we?
No, a cool Haitian dad makes life so much easier, and you don't know until you see someone else's Haitian dad acting up. And you like, so my dad was never an issue. Whatever I wanted, whatever Alex wanted, Alex get. My mom though was very traditional, and I lived with my mom. My dad stayed in the Bronx, and I moved to Jersey with my mom. And my mom was very school, home, and church. And those Haitian church, baby, we not talking about regular church. We talking about them Haitian.
Sunday school, then you got a break, then you got regular church. Then if they got a position, they staying after church to hang out. They might be the usher, they got choir practice, and you like, Mom, I'm hungry.
It's just too much. It was just too much. And I think that started my like regression from going to church. It was the Haitian church. But the thing about the tradition about the Haitian household is that I'm not traditional. And I think that's one thing that my mom realized about me early on. It's kind of like, I need to let Alex do her thing because she's not doing what I ask of her. So it was kind of like, and then she said it to me now. First, she calls me her hero all the time.
Oh, that's great.
Says that I'm her hero and I'm finishing her dream. Which is something that means a lot, because when I started going into entrepreneurship, leaving a 6-figure job in technology.
Come on, 6 figures. Listen, I'm here for it. Listen,
it was like, fella, like, what are you doing?
You got a job with a desk?
Yes, it was like, what?
A computer?
What are you doing?
An office?
Like, I have to do this. And she didn't understand it at first, but now she's the first one at all my events. She's cooking freaking black rice for people at my events. She is at all our retreats like, I'm the mother, you know, this is my daughter. And, you know, she says it with so much pride because I was able to be my authentic self. And she, after a while, she allowed me to do that without saying, I was like, at first, low key, she was mad I was a nurse, right? She was low key mad that I didn't go that route. But when she sees the route that I've taken, she's like, you're my hero. And it's like, sometimes our parents are just doing the best that they can with what they got. And this is just the level of how they were parented. So they're thinking that they're doing the best for us by pushing us into those lanes. And my personality was just too strong for it, because I'm like my mother's daughter. Like, she knows that I'm like the carbon copy of her, so she kind of let it go.
Admit it.
On me and her. Yeah.
Right. So I think like your entrepreneurial route is great. I love to show people that even we all know, for the most part, our parents have these very specific roles that they want us to be. And I try to make sure like we don't get so upset with them. Like, they're doing the best that they know. They've come from a foreign land. Some of them had to learn a new language. Some of them don't even still have a full grasp of the English language. They have to do all these other obstacles. So give them a little grace. Yes. Take what you can take, then create your own path. Yes. Don't argue with them too much, because arguing with the Haitian is like arguing with the brick wall.
Right.
Like, look, just be like, all right,
mm-hmm. Like, you got it, Ma. You got it. You win.
And go about your day. But they are so proud of you. When your dream comes to fruition, and then once they get a better understanding of what you're doing. Now, I did see that you are wanting to open up your own supermarket, right? A Black-owned supermarket. And Haitians love a supermarket. They love a good sale on some plantains, some okra, some, So tell us a little bit about the supermarket and what led you to wanting to do this.
Oh, girl. I'm actually in a place where I could tell the story freely. Usually I have to water it down for the masses, right? So what I mean by that, it was very a spiritual occurrence. And Haitian folks, we're not, unknown to the spiritual. So it came to me in a meditation, and it was really an answer from my ancestors and my grandmother, who was like, it was during the pandemic when I had this aha moment, and I was like, what am I missing for my people? Think Like a Boss, we do a lot for people of color and women. So I was like, what am I missing? And in the dream, it says you need to control the food and the money, right? In Creole. It said it in Creole. Yes. And I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, I don't cook, sis. I mean, that might have been y'all Haitians, but I'm not sitting in the hours in the kitchen. Like, I wasn't getting the food part. And then finally I brought the dream to my mom. And this lady, she's like, oh, yeah, grandmother, you should let your grandmother had a supermarket in Haiti. I'm like,
come on, Grandma.
Right, come through, Grandma. I'm like, Mom, why didn't you tell me that? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, why? And again, that's another reason why she kind of let me fly. Her mother was an entrepreneur.
Gotcha.
So I'm also a copy of my grandmother. She told me that my grandmother's supermarket was also catered to women. Like, I do women empowerment. It was catered to women. She said that women who didn't have money used to come into that market to get food on credit. And she was the only one that was doing that for them. And one time when my grandmother got sick in Haiti, all the women in the town came to the hospital to take care of her. They all took turns. So it's like I'm really continuing her work in a different way. So when the supermarket dream came to me, my mother was like, duh. Well, Grandma, had a whole supermarket. So I just knew that it was just the correct avenue at that time. So something that I can do for my people, because Black people, unfortunately, we don't play in that space. We don't really play in that space as much as we should. And during the pandemic, the richer were getting richer, especially in those places. We turned the Walmart people into bigger billionaires. Don't even get me started on Amazon, Jeff Bezos,
for
right?
Sure.
Just because they already were in those spaces where it was supply and demand. So trying to get us into that space, and the biggest thing about what I'm trying to do is trying to turn it into a franchise. So now when I create the first one, there's a blueprint for more to bring into more communities of color. So it's a gift that keeps on giving.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's where it came from.
I used to work for Kings in their events and marketings, and it's definitely a space not only for Haitian people, but Black people really don't play in that space. And I think one of the reasons that, I like doing Ask a Haitian, that I like interviewing people. A lot of people call me a sponge because I like to know things. And whenever I get a new job, a new position, I'm the one that goes back and tells everybody, like, listen, guys, did y'all know this? So working in that food space, and you're realizing it's panels of people who don't look like you, who don't have the same palate as you, choosing what foods go into your supermarket.
Right. Absolutely.
Like,
and there's a lot of poison in our food. And I think we really need to take back control of that. That's what my grandmother was trying to say in the dream. We need to take back control of our food.
Right. And it's a good opportunity, especially in our Haitian culture. I also follow this lady who's like a Black nutritionist, and I feel as though sometimes our Black food, our Haitian food, is demonized. Oh, it's not healthy. Oh, right now is get your summer body together. And of course, everyone is telling you to remove things, but our people are from an island. Our food is inherently nutritious. It's inherently good for you. Now, maybe our portion sizes, that might need some editing out, but a lot of our food is vegetable based. We fry food. The reason we fry food is because it's the quickest thing to do. If you were a slave, did you think there was no time to be? Now, we do have food that takes longer times to cook if you were out there doing a lot of work, but we do have those quick foods because there's a reason and there's a purpose behind it. So I do like the fact that you're going in the supermarket, right? I think it just will help open people's eyes to other avenues of business. Like, there are other ways to make money, and there is money to be had in the world, especially in America.
Absolutely. And
there's money to be had.
And the thing about the supermarket, it's Black people first. So I want to see that company of pickles that got pickles that I need to put on the shelf, right? So and I think that's another big thing that I wanted to mention too. It's like, we're not gonna go first to Wonder Bread to see what bread they got. We need to see what Black people in our neighborhoods already made bread that may not be on the shelf. Correct. Or have some type of product that are not on the shelf. That's what we are pushing first before we put anything else. But of course, right now we are in a food shortage. So I'm trying to be very strategic on when this is opening. That's what's really been the holdup. It's just it's the food shortage. It's the supermarket industry is actually not doing the best. So we have to revamp our online strategy part of the market. But once we get that situated and this inflation goes down a little bit and this food shortage, we should be right back on track to where we're supposed to be.
Awesome. And can you, as for our entrepreneurial Haitians out there, or those who may still be working their 9 to 5, you mentioned that you did work a 9 to 5 and then switch to entrepreneur. Is there a tip that you can give our viewers in regards to either a professional tip, like how to get to that next level, or just to be that shining star at their job, or if they're wanting to switch to entrepreneurship, what is something that they should consider and they should do? We know that there are a lot of Black-owned businesses, but I believe it's like within 5 to 10 years, they close, because people have to treat a business like it is a business. You need a business account. You need all these different things. So I do think it's important for someone who is actually in a business, a profitable business. What tip do you have for those that are like, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur in 2 years? What is 1 or 2 things that they should be doing, either now while they're still in their 9 to 5, or if they're already in their entrepreneurial journey?
I'm going to give 3. So the first one is, you have to respect your journey. And what I mean by that is, know what season that you're in, right? Social media is really rushing people to jump into entrepreneurship when sometimes it's not really for you.
LLC Twitter's on a roll. LLC Facebook got everybody in the tizzy, girl. Everybody want an LLC. And I'm like, okay, to do what?
Y'all gotta be careful, and y'all gotta know y'all seasons, and you gotta know your position, right? The Haitian Revolution worked because everyone knew their position. Not everybody was the captain. We still needed the children to climb the trees to tell us when people were coming, right? So everybody has to know their position for this fight. And it may not be you're an entrepreneur, but you may be helping an entrepreneur to get where they need to be. Or you may be the one that's on the table that got the money to help a partnership with the entrepreneur. So you have to understand what season that you're in and play your position. Your 9 to 5, can be funding your dream. If entrepreneurship is your thing, this is my next tip. Your 9 to 5 is to fund your dream. That is your first investor. So you're not rushing to get out of there. You need to have a good exit strategy. This is not like, okay, I'm about to jump up and leave. I'm flip this table. I can't stand it here. We are adults now, right? So you actually have to have a plan to exit. One of the biggest things in that exit plan, though, that I tell everybody, you have to become a minimalist. We have to watch the way that we're spending our money. Are you going into entrepreneurship for money, or are you going for freedom? Because if it's for money, you're going to have a hard time. Entrepreneurship to me has always been freedom. It has always been the freedom to do whatever the hell I want when I want to do it. Like the month of April, I was literally traveling the whole month for my birthday. Y'all can't, where Alex? I don't know. I don't know where she is. And don't worry about it, right? That's that freedom that entrepreneurship gives you. But in order to get that freedom, you have to become a minimalist. A lot of us are living above our means. So when you live above your means, you have to pay all these extraneous bills that you probably wouldn't have if you just chilled a little bit. And that's really checking your relationship with money. I can talk about this all day. Going back to the spiritual practices and really cleaning out all your wounds and traumas to actually figure out why you're spending money this way, why you can't be successful. There's a lot of whys hidden in your traumas. So sometimes you have to clean up your internal first for your external. But becoming a minimalist, before I left my 6-figure job, I had to get used to making $30,000. Because that's how much money my first business was making. So I had to go to this $180,000 mindset, right back down to 30,000, because I knew that was the leap of faith that I was about to take. Being a minimalist, not having credit card debt like that it's crazy having that much debt. The things that we buy, all these extra clothes, like all this stuff you don't need. So I had all my bills paid down to only essentials. Mortgage, phone, electricity, like essentials. Everything else didn't matter. When you had that essential number and it's something low, like, 2 to 3K, I have to clear 2 to 3K in my business every month. That's how now when you're a minimalist and you're looking at it like that, you're like, oh shit, that's actually doable now.
Gotcha.
But that other stuff that I kept paying for, the popping bottles, that all that stuff that doesn't matter, the Gucci and all that, you don't see none of them rich people with none of that stuff. We buy that stuff to overcompensate something else. You don't need all that stuff, right? So the minimalist ideology helps, because now when your back is against the wall, right, you don't have to sell everything because you don't got that much.
And you're not haggling your friends. I think I see this a lot because I do social media, digital marketing. I do it for businesses. It's my 9 to 5. And it really bothers me when people try to guilt trip folks into buying in their business. Oh, it'll be your family and your friends that won't support you. Your family and friends are not your target audience. And oftentimes they're just as broke as you. If I don't need another t-shirt, why am I going to just buy your t-shirt? Why are you guilting me into spending $15 that I don't really have, but I'm just going to give it to you for the sake? I'm probably not going to wear it. It's just going to collect dust. Instead of thinking to yourself, I need to expose myself to a wider audience. If I minimalize my lifestyle as a business owner, I can afford to go to these vendor pop-ups. I can afford to pay these vendor fees instead of like haggling family members. The worst is when Bath and Body Works has their candle sale and everyone goes crazy because I'm like, didn't I send an email offering you social media help? So that way you don't have to piggyback off Bath and Body Works when a sale is happening. You could be doing your own marketing strategy ahead of time. I think that minimalist lifestyle can kind of help a lot of businesses because you may not need all that flashy stuff and you can now use that money for your business. You don't have to haggle your family members and your friends because then maybe if you pay them, like, listen, I'm gonna pay you $10, wear this shirt, take a picture, post it on the gram, right? Because how about you do that instead of paying an influencer, right? Like,
you're absolutely correct. And I always say it's not your family or friends' job to support your dream. God didn't give them that vision. Why is their responsibility on their lap? That's the most weirdest energy to me. Like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, bro, that's not their job. It's your job.
Right. And then their personal situation. Like, that they don't have enough money. Like when the Haitian people come, and it's I like the restaurants and things like that. It's like I just don't understand.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely get it. And I agree wholeheartedly. It's your job to go ham on your business and become a minimalist. The third thing, of course, is ask for help. Here, I'm a consultant, y'all. Like, we're trying to do it all by ourselves because of pride. And again, that might be that Haitian pride, right? Don't ask nobody, don't trust nobody, don't eat no one's food. Like, we have that mindset. So now it's carrying over in our business, and you really need to ask for help. So I think that is really important to just get that help. But one last thing I wanted to say, it just reminded me of something that we were speaking about earlier. I've never, ever allowed anybody to disrespect Haitian people. It's like, I really had to think about it. Like, I've never had that problem. I think it's the way that I carried myself. If I didn't hide because I was Haitian, I was bigger because I was Haitian. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when people approached me and I was like, I'm Haitian, and like, it would come up with something else, and it would they would completely stand back, where I used to see people try to fit under the radar. I would proudly tell people I was Haitian, because I'm like, do you know what my people are capable of? Like, I once I say it like that, I'm like, do you know? And I always tell people that's part of the way that I show up.
All the time. Like, I know you girls love to tussle. Exactly. Because that's Haitian energy. Like, I know you girls love to tussle, but we gonna tussle, and we might really burn this house down. So listen, you want to tussle, we could tussle.
That's like, why I said Haitian beat down day. I wish I heard such a thing.
Listen, because I'm telling you, it was such a crazy experience going from like Haitians being ostracized, and then all of a sudden everybody was cool with the Haitians, and people who weren't Haitian wearing Haitian flags, Dominicans, and you're like, wait a minute.
No, I've seen the shift. I definitely seen the shift, but I've never in my life anyone came to me and said anything negative because I was Haitian. I just think my aura didn't allow it.
And we love to see it. And that's what I really am happy to see in this new generation. Because even when I was in high school, there was that slowly shift. Like, the off the boat, they would still get the jokes, but then we started getting Haitian teachers. And unfortunately, in the area that I lived, it was like Haitians were joining the gang. So that made them a little cooler. They were a little tougher. So the shift happened as I grew up more. It's like, wait, everybody want to be a Zoe now? Everyone's
because of them gang Haitians, them Haitians in Elizabeth. Yo, I'm telling you might be right about that. It's the Zoe pound. They started acting up and they put us on a different level. I'm like, yo.
People started getting scared because all of a sudden it was like, you can't not be ostracized. Like, and the thing is that I know in high school, my social studies teacher, Mr. Shepard, it's always the teachers. It's teacher appreciation week right now anyway. So that's great. And he was like, do you think if y'all get pulled over by the cops, if y'all walking down the street, someone's going to be like, oh, they're Haitian, I'm going to leave them alone. Right. Or they're going to be like, oh, that's a Black person, I don't like them. You think people are going to take the time to figure out people? And he was just telling us about stereotypes. And that always stuck with me because I was just like, I'm a proud Haitian, but I know off the surface, people are just going to judge me by the color of my skin, or only talk to me or not talk to me by the color of my skin. So it's important that I know who I am and I show up as I am. But I have to understand, if someone has never seen a Black person, they're like, oh, she Black.
Right.
They're not gonna like, oh, she Haitian. You cannot tell I'm Haitian. And what does a Haitian look like? I don't have an H on my forehead.
Oh, they get me so mad when you don't look Haitian. What am I supposed to look like? Rice and beans? What am I supposed to look like?
Exactly. But Alexandra, I thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And of course, people can follow you on social media. We'll have that information for you in the caption, in the description, but we just appreciate you. And I hope you enjoy your Haitian Heritage Month.
Thank you, sis. You too, honey.